kindness is something everyone can increase. It changes your heart, it changes your spouse. So it's inexpensive and you can do it today. So
welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byars. Each week you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Welcome back to the Love Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byars. Well, hello. Happy new week. All right. So it is official. Things have changed here and we are officially in fall, even though it's still hot here in Arizona, but we are officially in fall, right? So I am so excited. And I actually recently was putting out some fall decorations and I love this time of year. But I want to talk to you about coaching, and if that is something that you have been considering. As a certified empowerment, relationship, and dating coach and a feminine embodiment practitioner, I work with women to clear their love blocks and completely fall in love with who they are and have the confidence and the tools to attract the man of their dreams. One of the reasons why my success rate is high is because primarily my focus in my practice is transforming my client's subconscious mind so the trauma no longer directs the behavior and there's not a negative association to the experience anymore, because we need to heal the subconscious mind. And if the subconscious mind is not healed, then the pain and the behavior will continue repeating over and over again and again. That's why if you find yourself in a disempowering place and you keep attracting the same type of unemotional men who are not available, it's so important that you work with the right coach, because the right coach can help you subconscious mind to once and for all heal the trauma. If you would like to work with me and learn more about how we can work together and how, you can clear your love blocks and finally attract the man of your dreams, then please book a 45-minute call with me. There's no charge for this call, and you and I will work out a plan to get you exactly what it is that you are looking for. So please look in the show notes for the link to book a call with me. I can't wait to talk to you. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is you'll never be right for the wrong person. This is your reminder that dating isn't about hiding who you are so you can trick someone into liking you. It's all about being fully yourself so the right person can find you and the wrong people can be repelled. So you never have to be someone you're not or act differently than who you are for the right person to be attracted to you. Have fun dating. Put a big smile on your face. Take your time getting to know different men and show up as your true, authentic self. Don't rush the process and allow men to court you. Make sure you vent them and ask them real questions. Don't waste your time on the wrong guy, because the truth is there are plenty of amazing men out there looking for love, just like you. I am so thrilled to welcome our next guest to the show today, Mary Whitman Ortiz. Mary Whitman Ortiz is passionate about empowering healthy sexuality in marriage. As a Christian sex educator, relationship coach, author, and speaker, she helps couples globally and is regularly featured on TV as a relationship expert. She also trains ministry leaders and mental health professionals to facilitate sexual healing and wholeness. God brought healing to sexual wounds from the past, so she knows firsthand the joy of restoration and freedom. Mary's happily married to Tim. They love to jet ski and travel. And what a wonderful and powerful conversation I had with Mary about how important it is to follow your gut and to realize you can't, and as Mary said, do the work for your partner. They have to take initiative and see that there is a problem, and then they need to decide to make a change and follow through. That's how change can actually happen. If somebody decides not to do that, then you can't force them. It's something they have to decide to do on their own. With no further ado, Mary Whitman Ortiz. Well, hello, Mary. Yay. Yes, so excited. Hi, Mary. First of all, thank you for being on today. I know we are going to have a great conversation, of course,
Absolutely.
yes. And going from like our pre-call, I was just really excited to have you on this conversation with me today. And I was thinking about it. I was like, you are actually going to be one of the first guests that I have on. I've have relationship coaches and dating coaches, all kinds of guests when it comes to love and dating, relationships, all the things. But I
Right.
haven't had a coach that, really specializes in intimacy and
Yeah.
helping couples. So I think this is amazing. I'm so happy. First of all, that is the coolest thing that you're doing that work because no, seriously, Mary, because it is so needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so needed. And, there's so many married couples and they do definitely go, in stages. And I know you're the expert on that and you're going to talk to about that. But before we even get into all that, Mary, I want to know about you. I want to
Sure.
know about your love story and, how you came about to be where you're at now with your life and your husband. But I want to know, like, how it all began. So let's go from your childhood, Mary. Seriously, yes. We're going way back, girlfriend.
Oh,
Where did you grow up, hon? Where did you grow up? And tell me a little bit about that.
yeah, yeah. I was born in Kentucky, but moved to Alabama when I was young. My dad got transferred with work and had a fairly typical childhood, I guess, except that my parents divorced when I was 12.
Oh,
And
okay.
there had been tension in the household. My parents had been fighting, and I knew there were problems. So when they divorced, I had two older brothers, and they went and lived with my dad, and it was just my mom and I.
Okay.
And some of that was great. She was a Christian, and we got to have that in common. And
Okay.
oh my gosh, she took me to all my dance classes and choir and Girl Scouts and piano and just on and on and on, which was, uh, I guess, made up for some things that were missing because
Hmm.
I got to fill in the gaps there. And then I did date, I think, maybe more than other girls. I was,
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this. Hold on, Mary. Let me ask you this. Okay, yeah. I talk to a lot of women, and it's interesting. A lot of us are pretty boy crazy early on,
mm,
right? Some
mhm.
are not, but the majority of us, I can tell. So you just said to me, so you grew up with your mom and your dad, but they divorced when you were
Yep,
about 12 years old, and
yes.
then you separated. So your mom went one way, your dad went one way. Were you going back and forth, visiting your dad, or were you primarily with mom?
Primarily with mom. My
Okay.
dad moved out of the state,
Okay.
and so that limited the visits that I could have.
Okay. And what was your relationship like with your dad?
Well, there were just things you didn't talk about. I knew that he loved me, but he was not touchy-feely, emotionally connected, a lot of walking on eggshells.
Okay.
So he would buy me things, take me places, but there wasn't a real emotional bond
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not emotional connection. And I think, I mean, just again, talking to women, a lot of us, and especially like the time frame that when we grew up, it
Ah.
seemed like too, there were a lot of fathers back then. And I don't know if that's societal or that's their personality or what they gone through, but they were not a very emotionally available, not a, not like, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's
I don't
not,
think that was the norm. I think, hey, I go to work, I provide for my
yeah,
family, and that's kind of compartmentalized.
yeah.
And yeah, it was not as typical for dads to be as involved.
Right. Glad to be as involved. So how did that play a part? Because you just said a little earlier that you were kind of boy crazy early on. So what age were you like kind of like looking at the boys and wanting the little boyfriends? What was that like for you?
Well, first kiss was the summer before sixth grade.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So you for summer freaks, you had your first little kiss with your little boyfriend, and what was that like for you after that? So you get a little older, and then you start
Mhm.
like, what was your first? How old were you actually when you had your first, I would say, real boyfriend? First real relationship.
Probably 15.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that like for you, hon?
It was a lot of fun. It was a boy from my youth group at church. So we had lots of opportunities to do things as a group, and yet we could have time alone to go to the movies or whatever. So it
Okay.
was it was pretty sweet.
It was pretty sweet. Okay, cool. So you had like that healthy, like I have a little boyfriend, everything's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that play a part in like with your your parents getting divorced and you living with your mom? But what did that play a part in the sense of like, did you want to get married one day? Did you want to have a family, or was that not really something in the cards for you?
Oh, absolutely. I
Okay,
definitely wanted to be married, and I was sort of determined that when I got married, it was gonna be different, it was gonna be better, it was gonna be long lasting. So it was a strong drive for me.
it was a strong drive. Okay, so tell me about that. How did you meet? Is this your first husband or second husband? Or you only been married once? What's your story?
I've been married twice.
Okay, yeah. So usually I'm like, a lot of us have been married a couple times. Okay,
Right,
so
right.
what was the story with your first husband? How old were you when you met him?
I had just turned 17.
Okay,
Now, we didn't get married for 4 more years,
okay.
but I had just turned 17. He was actually the son of my father's childhood best friend. So,
Oh,
my
okay.
dad and his dad grew up together, even though we were now living in different states.
Hmm.
And I know that part of my attraction was to sort of make my dad proud.
Okay.
Let me have this relationship with your friend's
Son.
son.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. So then what happened with you and him?
Well, wow.
You get married.
I got married, and
You're married.
even from the wedding night,
Hmm.
something felt very off.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
from the very beginning, so were you something feeling off, Mary? And this is really important. Like that's why I love taking women back to their stories
Mhm.
because there's always moments in all of our lives that, like, depending on, you know, our beliefs and where we're at the time and our
Yeah.
age and just all kinds of stuff. Like we do things based on that with the knowledge that we have, with the skills that we have.
That's all we
And
got.
it's all we got, girlfriend. That's all we got. And a lot of it's women, and I totally get this, me included. Um, we make decisions, and a lot of times we make decisions, even though we might feel something could be off. We don't really trust ourselves. We don't really trust our gut. So you just said there was something off already when your wedding night. Was there something now looking back? I know I'm taking you way back, Mary, but was there something off even before that, or were you
Oh,
ignoring?
of
Were you
course. Now,
okay,
I
okay,
couldn't put my finger on it back
okay,
then,
okay,
but definitely, definitely.
okay. So how long were you in that marriage, and what ended up happening? Did you end up leaving the marriage, or did he leave? What was, overall what happened with that marriage?
Was married 26 years.
Oh, wow, Mary.
I left the marriage.
You did?
And what brought that about was how off things were with our sex life
Okay.
and with the subsequent disconnect and lack of emotional connection. In some ways, it was a similar walking on eggshells with him that I had done with my father.
Wow, yes.
And what was the core of it? I have to own my part, and that
Okay.
was even though I had a great motivation to have a good marriage, and I had read some books, but this is so long ago, I had never had a great model
Yep.
of a healthy marriage. I didn't know how to speak up for
Yep.
myself. I just did not have relationship and communication tools. That was my shortcoming. And my former husband came into the marriage already with a heavy porn habit that turned into an addiction.
An addiction. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so that was already in place with him before he even married you.
that is the truth. Yes.
Wow. So how many years? So you were married for him for 20 something years.
Hmm.
And when did you first learn about that, Mary?
10 years into the marriage,
Okay.
and I actually brought it up. And
Okay.
the funny thing was, we had
What?
been to a church service, and somebody had rushed the altar and cried out loud, "I've got to repent. I'm struggling with porn."
Mhm. Mhm.
And my husband and I are driving home, and it was an evening service. And I said, I know this was just a God inspiration. I
Yes.
said, "Have you ever had a problem with porn?"
You did. You asked him.
I did, and he answered, and he said yes. But he sort of covered it up. "Oh,
Yeah.
it's not bad. I don't do much with it. It doesn't affect anything." But that was the beginning of my research and discovery into what that really meant.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit here. About I know we're talking about your story, and thank you
Mhm,
for sharing your story. This is fabulous. We get to hear this because I believe that there are a lot of couples that
mm.
are struggling with the porn addiction.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
And a lot of couples are struggling with that, and they don't understand the layers of it, and how it really truly affects a woman and how it actually affects a man. Can we just talk? I know that this is something that you do for a living now, but
Mhm.
since we're talking about this right now, I really want people that are listening to this to understand a little bit about like the effect that that has on a couple when it comes to porn addiction.
Right, so many layers to it, and we'll
Yes.
start first with the person who is viewing or participating in porn.
Okay.
The way it becomes an addiction is if they are using that substance to meet a need in their life that is it's not a healthy way to meet a need. And when you can start to recognize that it's interfering with their family life, with their work life. I mean, it can be so severe, it can interfere with their health, with actually their mental capacity. So it
Wow.
is far reaching for just the person who is involved in the porn. And if they have any type of guilt or shame with what they're doing, then of course that's just another layer of emotional baggage that they're carrying, and they really don't want to face it. It seems overwhelming. They don't know what they would do, and they don't know how they could escape it,
Mhm.
and much less still be married or survive after the relationship ends. So they are struggling with a lot at that place.
A lot of that place with the person. And in your profession and how you're helping women now, and you yourself,
Mhm.
what does that do for the woman?
She begins to doubt her worth, doubt her value. Why am I not enough?
Mhm.
Why do you have to have more than me? What do I have to do? What kind of performance do I have to put on to keep your attention, to be equivalent to what you're experiencing? Or what do I have to do to keep you from having that problem? Like, do I have to remind you, oh, how are you doing with it? And don't look at that woman over there. It's just the wife or the spouse just gets put into a really awkward position on how they see themselves, how they show up in marriage. And what you have to understand, any type of healthy intimacy
Yes.
is based on trust.
Yes.
So if the
Yes.
trust is broken, the intimacy, physical, emotional, sexual, all of it is going to be almost impossible. And Some spouses that are struggling with porn may make demands of their spouse. You have to do this. If you love me, you will do this. Almost
Hmm.
like you have to keep up your end of the deal sexually, even if you feel very broken about what's going on. So that's why it can lag longer than it needs to.
Yes. No, it is. I mean, really, it is beyond destructive in so many
Mm.
ways.
Hmm.
And, I'm a mother of Mary, 4 boys.
Yeah.
I know. 3 of my own and 1 bonus.
Yeah.
And that is something from a young age. Again, I know that, we go through puberty and I understand boys, one thing, but like one thing that I have talked to my sons about,
Mm.
often is, literally stay away from porn. It will, and even if they're not in a relationship or in a relationship, I just know how damaging that can do. I love
Yes.
that you said that it's not how damaging that can do for them,
Hmm.
and how that actually changes their perception of
Yes.
reality, right? Like how that changes their perception of reality, and how they think that what actually turns them on, and all these things, and how that
Exactly.
affects when they go into a relationship, because it's so unrealistic.
Yes.
And
Yes.
these days, unfortunately, it's like right at your fingertips.
Mm.
I remember, okay, so I was married, Mary. I was married to my ex-husband, and I don't remember, I'm not good with like dates, okay? Like, but when the internet first kinda came out, and not
Okay.
only that, when it was like one of the first secrets of it was the ability to watch porn,
Sure.
and it was like the very first time ever
Mm.
that, you had this ability to watch it privately in your home,
Exactly.
and you didn't have to go out and to a little club to watch it, you didn't have to buy the
Mhm.
VH8, remember the VHS tape?
Right, right.
All the things. It was not available that way. So it was
Mhm,
really like underground. Like you had to go through things. You had your magazines, but all this stuff. But I remember back then, I knew, like, I don't think there was a man alive at that time, like, not on that. Like, I'm not saying all the
mhm,
guys, but I remember even my ex-husband, who did not necessarily have an addiction to porn,
mhm.
that man, he was lost for a moment, and I remember too, I was like, "Oh, no, this not gonna work. No, 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 this is
Yeah.
not gonna work." You know, thank goodness we were able to catch it earlier, but
Oh, right.
right, like, something like that, but I'm just saying, like, it's so available right now.
Mhm, mhm.
That makes it so hard. Okay, so let me say this. So now you're about 10 years into this marriage,
Right.
and you realize, okay, hi, what's up? Like you already said, there were some things that you weren't sure of that were going on,
Mhm.
but then you find out that he did have, well, he didn't really admit it completely yet. He had,
Right.
right, like, you're like, he's just kind of putting the foot in a little bit in the water, but
That's the
you
truth.
but you admitted something was there. So what ends up happening now with you and him?
I put my head in the sand.
Okay.
He said he's working on it. He says it's not a problem. He says it's okay or not gonna be a bad thing, and I couldn't go there. I told maybe 3 other women, very, very close
Okay.
friends.
Okay.
And, like, between us, we had nothing. We we didn't know what to do. It progressed a few more years, and
Okay.
a few other men came forward from like our church,
Okay.
and they started a small group for the men to go and meet and do like a Promise Keepers book or something. There was no provision for the wives,
Mhm.
and we had no book, we had no leader, we had a back door to some back room to try to come together, and it made it worse
Okay.
because it was not helpful, and that felt like we were trapped even more. It's like, hey, nobody has an answer. This feels like we're totally stuck.
We're totally stuck. Like, what do we do now? But we can tell, obviously, something's not right in our marriage. We're not, connected. We're not having, like,
Yes.
because with you and your ex-husband, like, so I'm sure that was one of the things that was affecting your connection, your intimacy, your trust with him.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And because he was not able to emotionally connect,
Yeah.
then he thought the requests that I made were outrageous. Like,
Oh,
I do enough. I go to work. I bring home the money. I take care, in air quotes, I
sure.
take care of my family. But that was all lip service. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel cherished. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel honored. It just, and I ended up having almost two lives. It
Okay.
was who I was at home, and then who I was in my community, my workplace, my church, my friends. I couldn't own the fact that this dark, heavy thing was happening, because if I faced that, then I faced, why did I allow it?
Right.
And none of those thoughts were clear in my head, but I knew I can't say this out loud to anybody. So I ended up walking in shame as well because
You
of it.
did. Yeah, and do you find then that's what happens to a lot of the women is that they feel, which they are not. Let me just make this very clear. But they feel like responsible for this. Like,
Right.
oh, oh, bless their hearts.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because they're not. Mary, can you talk about that?
Each person is responsible for themselves, their thoughts, their actions, their beliefs, the way they impact other people.
Yes.
And so, if your spouse is involved in pornography or any type of unwanted sexual behavior,
Yeah.
it's because of their choices.
Yes.
And they have to come to terms if they're going to make a change,
Mm-hmm.
if they want to change, if they value something more than the habit that they've established. I mean, they have a need. It, at our core, each one of us want to be known. We want to be seen and heard and understood and appreciated. And there's any number of things that you can do to fill that need.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the things are healthy, some of the things are not
That's true.
healthy.
That's
And
true.
the things that aren't healthy, there's never enough. There will never be enough porn. There will never be enough drugs. There will never be enough of any behavior that really establishes that you're loved and you're valued. And so if you are a spouse who you're watching this happen to your partner, and I can't say just husbands or just wives,
Yeah.
because women obviously struggle with porn as well.
Yeah.
It's usually for different reasons, and it plays out in different ways. But
Mm-hmm.
if this is happening, thankfully now there are so many resources
Yes.
available. There
Yes.
are lots of places where help can happen, and just to know that you are never stuck. You
Yes. I love that.
never have to stay in a place where your heart, your spirit is being crushed. And it's a type of abuse that's
It
going
is.
on if you're
Yes.
being devalued to that degree.
To that degree. Okay, so then with you, Mary, so then you said you kind of like put your head under the, because again, back then we didn't have the resources that we do now, as you mentioned.
Sure.
You didn't
Hmm.
have the support that you do now. They didn't have the men didn't even have the ability to like work on this because people can get over addictions. I just want some
Yes.
people, if they do the work. And so, ladies, if you are in a relationship right now and this is really resonating with you, and you're
Mhm.
like, oh my goodness, I do have my husband that I'm noticing that is also addicted to porn, or you find it, or you ask them, or you something's there. You just know something's there.
Right.
He admits it, right? Um, there are men and people that they if they decide to go in and do the work, they can
Mhm.
actually change. But
Absolutely. Absolutely.
absolutely change, lady. So it's not like it could be the end. But if they're not willing to
Hmm.
admit it, and they're not willing to get the help, and they're not willing to change, that is 100% has nothing to do with you.
Yes.
That is their choice, their
Hmm.
decision. And it does take two people though, to want to work on the marriage, two people
Hmm.
to, have that with each other. Okay, so for you now. So now
Hmm.
you're putting your head, it's 10 years, you're putting your head under the, under the rug, whatever. What happens now? Does this get like now you're kind of aware of it, Mary? You're like,
Yes.
okay, something's off, but I'm gonna, I believe him. It's not as bad as I think it is.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, it's funny. I think God uses things to get our attention. So I was literally looking at Yahoo News
Okay.
back in the day, I guess before Google, I don't know. And this headline popped up on my screen. I didn't go looking for it, it just appeared. And it says, "Why is your sex life important to your mother in law?"
Oh,
And yes, it got my attention. And I thought, wait a
wow.
minute, sex life, mother in law, should those words ever be in the
See,
same sentence?
yes.
So I read the article, and what I found was a mother in law, in the best of scenarios, wants her son and her new daughter in law to be happy. And to be
Yes.
happy, you need to be healthy. And to be healthy, it is having everything flowing on all cylinders so that you've got the trust, you have the emotional connection, and at that point then sexual intimacy is an overflow, and it's a beautiful, wonderful thing.
Yes.
So when
Yeah.
I read that article, it was my aha, because it was somebody that was objective. It was not somebody from the church that was going to put some kind of male dominance
Yep.
perspective on it.
Yep. Yep.
And that was what started my exit.
Wow. Did you okay, when you read that article and you started having like that moment like, okay, this is I'm not doing this anymore.
Mhm.
Something's off, like something's off. How long like were you able to like talk to him again? And did you guys ever try? Did he ever say he's going to change or get help? Or was it again just he was in denial and you were just like, okay, it's been too long. What was the process for you then?
Well, over all of our marriage, we went to counseling a few
Okay.
different times,
Mhm.
but I can't say that A, the counselors knew any more. B, I don't think porn came up because he didn't bring it up and I didn't bring it up. I thought,
Got
this
it.
is just my life. This is just my problem. This is just, and I had settled at that point. But when I read the article,
Mhm.
I have a older female cousin
'Kay.
that was my safe person.
'Kay.
And we began to talk, and this was before long distance plans on phones. And she told me that she paid like $300 because of all of our long distance phone
Oh,
calls.
you're talking on the phone. She's
Ex-
like, "Right, yeah, 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 yeah,
Exactly.
yeah."
But that I did, of course, talk to him then.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
but very shortly after I moved out,
Okay.
I knew that I couldn't survive there and try to have a new belief system.
Because there was no with him then, you didn't really see any, um, true effort in wanting to change this. Is that what was going on with him?
That is what happened.
Mhm.
He did eventually, I'll say maybe 6 months into it, probably after I'd already started the divorce proceedings, he
Mhm.
did end up going to a counselor on his own.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that counselor actually called me, and it's
Oh,
funny, years later,
yeah.
I met that counselor and went to talk to him myself, but, by that point, he was still in denial. He
Okay.
was blaming me for wanting things to be different. He was not taking ownership or responsibility
Okay.
for what was happening.
Yeah, he wasn't. Now, did you guys have children together?
Yes, yes, we have 2 daughters.
Okay, so what were the eight when you left him, what were your ages of your daughters?
They were 19 and 21.
Okay.
And the day I officially moved out, they actually moved out for their other reasons. My younger daughter was moving for college,
Okay.
and her older sister had already graduated, but they were going to live together.
Oh.
So the moving van came. Well, I guess it was two moving vans, and they left, and I left, and that would I'm sure that was a difficult day for everybody.
Yes, yeah, I bet. But I'm telling you, we're always just going at one time. This I can imagine. He was like, "Oh my
Yes.
goodness." Okay, so Mary, so then you decided then, okay, you know what? I'm not going to live like this. This is not a
Mhm.
marriage. I've been with him for so long, but I don't need to feel like this anymore. And obviously,
Right.
that he's not changing, and and this is what I truly believe. I believe that, I believe in marriage, I believe in all that, but I don't think everyone is meant to stay together. Like
Mm,
that's like, you don't have to stay together if the other person is not also willing, honestly,
for
to
sure.
change, to, or to grow and to mature and really understand, how their behavior is affecting their partner. That's
Hmm.
so important, right? So if that person is not willing to do that, then I'm just saying we're not obligated to stay in stuff like that and be miserable. We can only, right? Like talk
Yes.
about that.
And you can't do their work.
No.
You can make things worse if you
Yes.
try to get them books and sign them
Yes.
up for this and that. They have to take the initiative. They have to see that there's a problem and decide to make a change and follow through. Now, if they do all of those things, then
Yes.
there can be a pathway back together. There can be healing
Absolutely.
individually and then healing as a couple. I've seen too many wonderful success stories on the other side. So I know it is absolutely possible, but both people have to decide I'm going to be mature in the way I love. And that means I'm going to look a little different now than what I have been in the past.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the beauty of anything in life. We have choices and we can
Mm.
change and we can grow if we decide that we want to do it. Okay, so now Mary. So now you've been married with this man for a long time and then you leave this marriage, and what was that like for you? Woo!
Right, because at that moment, I lost my husband, my
Yes.
kids weren't with me, I
Yes.
wasn't in the family home, I didn't have the pet, I lost my
Oh,
church, I mean, I just lost a lot.
that was a lot.
A
That was a
lot.
lot.
It was very, painful, I didn't know who I was. It was about the same time
Okay.
there was a tsunami in
Oh,
Japan, and I
okay.
remember watching video footage, and they were just devastated. I mean, there was destruction, there was loss of life and everything, and I saw those people, and I said, "The pain that they're showing outwardly, I feel inwardly, but I have to keep it locked up and just put a smile on and get up the next day and keep going." So
Wow.
it was very difficult, but
Very
they
difficult.
I immediately was getting help though. I
Okay.
had
You were.
counselor, I found some great books, some small groups, I went through some inner healing. Oh, it was I didn't want to die. I felt
Yeah.
like I was dying, but I did not
Whoa.
want to
Right.
die. And I knew my daughters were of the age that I wanted my life to turn around so that
Yes.
they could see some different things when they were making choices for themselves.
Oh, that's fantastic. So even though you were going through your own healing, your own journey, and really
Mhm.
discovering all this, you were still having hope that you wanted to eventually again meet someone
Oh,
maybe.
yeah.
And okay, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then once you finally, okay, Mary, so how did you go from like that, hard time in your life,
Mhm.
obviously you get divorced, you're like settling, you're taking time, da 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 da, to fast forward
Mhm.
meeting your husband now.
Yes, I was single 5 years,
Okay.
and I had, I think, 27 first dates
Woo!
because I didn't really know what did it feel like to be respected.
No, that's yeah.
What did it feel like to have space where my voice counted and someone was intentional with showing me appreciation and honor? And I didn't have very many second dates
Okay.
because I sort of learned how to turn dating into interviewing
Yep.
and finding out, do we have similar values? Do you
Yes.
have habits that I know I could not endure? How are you doing with your mature life and taking ownership and self-awareness? So I processed through a lot, with while I was dating.
Oh, that's fabulous, Mary. That no, that is amazing. That's actually what I teach now.
I
That's
know.
actually what I teach. I tell women dating is an opportunity, right?
Mhm.
To get to know someone and just first of all to see, because if we're talking like a romantic partner, we got to even see if we are in alignment. Like if this
Oh,
guy is just
yeah.
Right? Hello. If this guy, if we have the same values together, or he's just wanting to hook up, and if we're women are like, oh no, that's not our jam. Like, it is
Right.
so important. It's such a great time for women if they're single. Seriously,
Yes.
ladies, you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket. Like, it is a great opportunity that you get to meet different people and you get to date
Absolutely.
and really see what it is and how he's showing up, and if that's in alignment with you.
Mhm.
That is really good, Mary. Oh, good for
Mhm.
you, girlfriend. That's really smart. Okay, so now you're on this dating thing, and you're like, okay, so I'm healed from my past stuff. Well, I'm healing because it's a
Right,
journey.
right.
It's a journey, right? It's not like a destination. I get it, but we get to learn more about ourselves. If
Yes,
we do the
yes.
work, we're healing, and then what happens?
I met my husband online,
Yes.
and, we had a couple of funny coincidences because I had moved twice since the divorce, so
Yes.
I'm in a new city, and at that time, I was teaching in a private school, and so I would have been at the school Monday through Friday. He actually went to a church service that was held at that school on Sunday because
Oh,
they had a theater. And I'm like, oh, we were right there tracking, but
yeah.
would have never seen each other. So we were going when we started to date, we were going very slow. And
Okay.
that was refreshing. I
Yes.
felt no pressure. We were having fun. We
Oh,
went to
ladies, do you hear
dinner.
Mary? Listen to Mary. Listen to Mary.
We went to the beach, we went for
Oh,
bike rides, we let our dogs visit each other. I mean, it was just it felt I felt young all over again. I had favorite music that we shared. I mean, it was everything that I would have ever wanted in a dating relationship.
oh, that's fantastic, Mary. Oh, ladies, did you hear that? Take your time, enjoy the courtship. I always like, why
Mhm.
are we rushing? Let's enjoy. Why, Mary? Why are we rushing? Like, let's enjoy it. Let's really get to know the person. Okay, so time is going by.
Mhm.
The more you're spending time with this man, you're like, oh, he's amazing. This is fantastic. And obviously, you guys fall in love.
We did, we
Oh,
did. I remember it was a October 30th, and there was a Halloween dance going on,
mhm.
and we're out on the dance floor, and I may have had a couple of glasses of wine too
Yeah.
many, and I already knew that I loved him, but in that moment, I ended up whispering in his ear, and then the next day, I'm like, "Oh, wow, I just took this to a whole new level." But
Yes.
but just a few months later, by January, we were getting really serious,
Okay.
and then all together, I think it was 15 months that we dated. So that felt great. We got
Right.
to meet families, got to certainly
Beautiful.
see what everyday life looked like. No surprises there, and it was I will even say easy. I had so much peace and so much
Yes.
confidence. And I remember on our wedding
Yes.
day and before the ceremony, I'm sitting there with my sister-in-law and she looks at me and she goes, "You're completely relaxed. Are you sure you're okay?" And I'm like, "Absolutely. I have no doubt whatsoever."
Mary, that's what it is. Oh, I love that you said that. That's what it is. That's what I've been trying to teach, Mary. When you are in alignment with someone,
Mhm.
it actually should feel easy,
Yeah,
peaceful. Like you
yeah.
have this attraction, but that person also is like a person that you want to share with, and you have these conversations that, like, time just passes by, and it's fun and it's
Mm.
exciting, and it's not, that's when you're able to like really feel how you feel. So you are feeling it, Mary, with him. Like, what was it about your husband, prior to him being your husband,
Mhm.
that you fell in love with? What, like, how did he show up?
Oh my goodness. He he's a charmer.
Mm,
He walks into the room and I won't say he commands attention, but he brings life and joy. He dances spontaneously. He tells jokes. I mean, everybody loves him and is attracted to him. And then I realized, but he's giving special attention to me.
yes.
he didn't need to have it from everybody else. That's just who he is. He's very giving. He's just loving, caring, mature, responsible, fun person that has gotten sexier over the last 10 years. For sure. I'm like, honey, keep those grays. They look amazing.
Oh, Mary, like, so let me tell you this. Okay, so this is what I love. Oh, I love doing these podcasts because I believe like it doesn't matter, what's happened to us in the past.
Hmm.
We can have marriages that, sometimes things don't work out.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that love is still not available. It doesn't mean that we can't, grow and learn and really find the perfect match for us. There's no perfect relationship, but you can have the perfect match for you. So
Yes.
you marry this man
Mhm.
and it seems like, you said you've been together for about 10 years, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it seems like, things are amazing with you two. I mean, like I
Mhm.
said, there's no perfect, amazing with you. How did this also really have you now do what you do? Is it because you were able to see it in both aspects? Because can you tell the listeners what you do for a living?
I am a relationship coach and I focus on helping couples create healthy intimacy, which includes sexual intimacy and all kinds of intimacy.
All kinds of intimacy because you now it's like you now in a relationship that you can see how different
Yes.
life is, right? Like
Yes.
talk about that, Mary. Talk about that.
Well, it's interesting when I go speak to groups, I will open up with a couple of things. I may say that I'm the least likely person to be standing here talking about sex because of my background, because of how much shame and how much darkness and how many messages that were about it being dirty and no. But because I was so healed and chose new beliefs. I really feel like I sought not what church told me, but what the Bible, what God told me, because there's a lot of messages that aren't tracking. They seem counterfeit. They don't seem like the original version, and so that has just changed everything for me to want the want a different marriage, to know that it's possible,
Yes.
to know that it's possible. And the other thing that I open up with when I'm speaking, sometimes I'll say, is your sex life saved?
Oh,
And there's a pushback for that because if
talk
you,
about that. Yeah.
yes, if you continue engaging in sexual intimacy the way you always have, then it's possible that you've been informed by things that aren't healthy.
Okay.
If you have gone towards porn or unwanted sexual behavior, then that is really distorting your idea. I mean, porn nowadays, the most typical presentation is about violence,
Yes.
and that the women in porn as the victims are enjoying the violence.
Right.
It's just so distorted.
It
So
is very distorted.
if you've experienced that, if you've just watched the media, then the hookup culture is alive and well. If you've watched the Hallmark Channel,
Wow.
where is not reality, then
Hmm.
that will mess with your understanding. And if you've been in some type of religious tradition that has really skewed the roles of men and women, then that's not truth. But it's all you know.
It's all you know.
It's all you know. So I'm challenging people with my question: is your sex life saved? Because if you want Christian beliefs in every area of your life, there's quite possibly more good stuff waiting for you that you didn't even know existed.
Oh, yes. Mary, talk about what it really like I have my perspective when I read the Bible on what it says about, marriage and sex and it should be something that a couple should do and enjoy together. It's talk about what you learned and how you teach now what it says in the Bible actually about sex.
I have an acronym to help people remember this. When I went
Okay.
through my training at Richmond University, I had to write my theology of sex.
Okay.
And I came up with this acronym, and it's the word gift, GIFT. And these are new ideas, they were new to me, that would just in a nutshell, how can you remember? How can you have a fresh perspective? So the G stands for good. And
Okay.
that is sex, the way it's good is more than just those 13 seconds of orgasm. There is just good on level upon level benefits, and God gives his full stamp of approval on that. The I stands for intimate. Now, we as a society don't know about trusting, about being vulnerable, about being transparent, about having that safe place where you can just open up. So there's a lot of learning that has to take place for you to get to that place where it's intimate. The F stands for fierce. And the reason I use that word is because I believe when you have a healthy sex life, it bonds you together. It
Yes.
makes your union strong. And as a couple, you are united, and nothing is going to tear you apart
Mm,
if you are making this a priority. And then T is a really sweet word. It's timeless. And I believe there are two ends to this spectrum. We are to enjoy sexual intimacy with childlike wonder and
yes.
playfulness and curiosity. And yeah, let's try that. I don't know if it'll work, but let's try it. And then
That
on the
sounds fun.
I
I'm like,
know.
yes, yeah.
And then on the other end of the timeless spectrum is the aging, but adapting. And it's okay if we adapt to our spouse. I mean, there could be stress, there could be illness. Certainly for women, there's things with menopause, there's aging
Correct.
issues for men. You might not be able to try all 365 positions anymore. But you're committed to one another. You're committed to that place of mutually satisfying and respectful intimacy. And now wow, we don't have to do what we've always done. There are new things, more things, different things, and it just stays alive with that attitude.
Wow, Mary. What would you that is fantastic, honestly. Like seriously, when you have people come to you
Hmm.
and you help people when it comes to, intimacy.
Hmm.
And like you said earlier, intimacy starts with trust
Yes.
and intimacy also with vulnerability.
Mm.
And how do you like if we have listeners right now, and they're married and they're
Mhm.
like, you know what, Mary? They're like, we don't really have a porn addiction, right? But we would love for our relationship to have, closer intimacy.
Mhm.
Where can they start? Like, what advice would you give them?
I'm going to give you two pieces. The first
Okay.
one is kindness.
Kindness.
We get used to one another. We let things slide. We're not as intentional. We don't have those date nights, those flirty notes, those little pats when you walk through the hall. So, kindness is something everyone can increase. It changes your heart, it changes your spouse. So it's inexpensive and you can do it today. So
Yes.
and and I encourage couples, if they know about love languages, that will give you information on the best ways that your spouse feels loved, so that will start the connection emotionally. And then something that I talk a lot about is foreplay,
Okay.
because couples, men and women, are different. And we know that and we roll our eyes, but oh my goodness, in foreplay, it's going to really show up because men can compartmentalize, and so they can leave work at work. They can leave their project in
Yep.
the garage and they can go to the bedroom and instantly be ready.
Yes.
Whereas women are connecting so many things. And in order for a woman to give herself fully to sexual intimacy, she has to give a mental yes first.
Yes.
And she has to say, it's okay for me to let go, to temporarily suspend my checklist, my to do list. Just let that go for whatever your time is. You have 30 minutes, you even have 10 minutes. Then she can engage. And I also tell couples that foreplay is the combination of words and touch. And the words
Oh, I like
are,
that. I talk
yeah,
about that. Yeah.
it
Okay.
is, it's the triple A for the words. It is appreciation,
Okay.
affirmation, and affection. And this happens outside the bedroom as well as inside the bedroom. But you're not going to go into the bedroom as complete strangers if you've never connected throughout the day and just think anything that's going to happen meaningful. You might be able to go through the motions. You may have a physical release, physical pleasure, but it won't build closeness in your relationship if you're not finding ways to connect through appreciation and affirmation, telling your spouse why you believe in them, how you're proud of them, why you're just so thrilled that they are in your life. Those kind of comments just are incredible. And then when it comes to the touch aspect, I have the little reminders that this would be indirect before
Okay.
it's direct. It would be soft before it's firm, and you would vary your intensity of touch, and it's like a dance, so
Yes.
it's going to change every time. And my last thought on that is, for women, their hormones change so much throughout their
Yes.
life
Yes.
that guys, what she wanted yesterday is not the same
As she
that
was.
she
Yes.
wants today.
Yes. Yes.
And she's probably just as frustrated as you are. It's like, oh my gosh, my body is like a an effort to live and enjoy in as well. But just knowing that it's the dance, it's there's bring humor,
Yes.
even in the moment of, well, that didn't go the way we thought it would go, or the next day, or over breakfast, and there's a way you can have a quick, not a rehash, but just ooh, that was pretty amazing. Let's
Yes.
remember to do that one again. So
Yes.
that instills, I'm with you regardless of the outcome of, did it work or not work the way we thought? And we're planning for the future. So anything you can do that instills, I'm planning for the future, it says, I see us together. And
Okay.
that builds more security. And the more security you have, the more freedom you have in the bedroom.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. And speaking, like, honestly, me as a woman, I noticed too myself, like how I have changed through the
Mm.
years. And I love
Hmm.
that you said that, and things that, how I liked things back then wasn't necessarily, as I changed,
Right,
hormones, all the
right.
stuff. And for me, it is truly so important. I love how you said, like, I can't just go in the bedroom, like being so busy, a mom, working, this, tired, this, and then think that I'm going to swish that energy. But when we have throughout the day, like you said,
Hmm.
when my husband is being flirtatious and he
Yes.
is, acknowledging me. And I always tell him, he's like, "What do you find sexy?" I say, "Playfulness." That's for me.
Yeah, yeah.
I love I love the quirkiness. I love the playfulness. That really helps me, want to be connected to him, want to have that intimacy, and want to have that physical part with him. Because intimacy is not necessarily just physical.
Right,
It
right.
is, right? Like, intimacy is not just physical. Intimacy, there's so many layers here. Oh my goodness, Mary. How important, like, I just want people to know, like, if you are in a relationship right now and you are not having that intimacy
Hmm.
and you're not having that connection, that's such a big part of a marriage, to really feel connected. And
Yes.
so if that is not happening, would you suggest, like, let's say the woman, like, would you suggest for her to start that conversation with her husband?
Well, even before she starts it with her husband,
Yes.
start it with herself.
Okay, talk about that.
What do you like? What don't you like? Not that it's
Okay.
all about you, but you have to be clear on how things are impacting you before you ever share it with your husband.
Okay, that's good.
And when it comes to sex, because there has been such a taboo in our culture, in our modern age,
Yes.
that women might be really uncomfortable
Okay.
describing things they like and they don't like, I tell them to practice. Go stand in front of a mirror and say things out loud. The more you're at ease, the more that whole conversation is going to go a lot better. also, this conversation, when you're going to bring up something really delicate, you need to have a plan. Don't just surprise attack them and
That's so
spill
good, Mary.
out everything. Whew, that's not going to be
The
good
guy's gonna be like, what is
for
going
anybody.
on?
Yes. So find
Okay.
the time that works for you. I mean, some
Okay.
couples like their morning coffee. Some couples like to go for a walk at the end of the day. There's just, you need to know what the rhythm is for you, but you're looking for a time where there's not a lot of distractions,
Okay.
where you both agree that you want to go for this coffee, this talk, what have you. And then you have a couple of things prepared you want to say. You
Okay.
won't go through every single thing on your list in that one sitting. Otherwise, you will never want to go and sit and talk again. So just a couple of things to start
Okay.
with. And then, hey, we can do this together again because we're a team and we will figure this out.
Oh, I love that. So she can just start little by little, start
Mhm.
changing the conversation. And I love that you said already be prepared to what it is that you are enjoying and what it is that you need,
Yes.
and be able to talk to him about that. Like, share that with him and share it in a way, like you said, it can be, a little more playful, it can be honest with him.
Right.
And yeah, and I'm a big believer in that type of communication. Like, I'm like, if you got to talk to your man, ladies, like, let's just not, like, when he's in the middle of something, say, I need to have a talk, what I mean? Like, prepare it. Just
Mhm,
say, hey, babe,
mhm.
when's a good time for you? I'd love to have a nice conversation with you. I have some things on my mind.
Right.
Definitely prepare that so you guys have that quiet time, that, vulnerability time, the
Mhm.
intimacy time with no distractions. So
Yes.
you can have that conversation. But what I hear you say is definitely, if you are a woman and you are like, okay, I want, some more intimacy. We've been together for a
Mhm.
long time. Things kind of have gotten, going to the right a little bit or whatever's happened. And she wants to have that with him again.
Mm.
She should be able to, like you said, stop, reflect on herself. What is it that
Yes.
she's missing? What is it that she's really wanting?
Mhm.
And then talk to him. Oh, I love that.
Absolutely. And to sow those appreciation and affirmation
I
types of
love that.
ideas, affection, while you're having that conversation. A lot of husbands feel, oh no, I'm being attacked by my wife. She's judging me. She's critiquing me. I'm rejected. I don't want to ever have that talk again.
Hmm.
And it can feel that way. It can feel like a setup. But if you remember to throw some praise in there and some appreciation and compliment him on something, because there's definitely something that he's doing that is amazing, that maybe you both have forgotten about how wonderful it is. So we want to be building each other up even
I
in the
love
middle of
that.
having some of those talks that are delicate. And it's true that whether it's your sex life, your finances, your in-laws, things going on with parenting, I mean, there's a lot of areas in life where you need to have delicate conversations. So if you can remember some of these tips, it's going to help all across the board.
Oh, definitely. Oh, did you hear that? Definitely. Oh, that's fantastic, Mary. Mary, seriously, how do people, and I have another question, but I want people to hear this round.
Mhm.
How do people actually get a hold of you if they are really wanting to get into your world, and
Mhm.
and how do you work with people? Like, what do you do exactly? I know what you do for a living, but how do they work with you?
Right, right. Well, all my socials are my name, Mary Whitman Ortiz, and I know it'll
Okay.
be spelled out on your information.
Yes.
I also am under Limitless Intimacy. That's the name of my company. And I have an app,
Oh,
Limitless Intimacy.
okay.
So they can download it. It's free. There's all kinds of, I call it marriage tips at your fingertips. There's conversation starters. There's an ebook. There's a webinar. And I do YouTube videos every week. So everything that I do, you can get right there. So lots of resources. And I'm very,
Fantastic.
very comfortable talking about sex. So a lot of my topics are about sex. And when I'm working with people, there's a variety of ways. I
Okay.
certainly have courses, I have small groups, I do individual or couple sessions, I do half day sessions. Sometimes when there's an issue and you're like, we're finally ready to do this, then a big block of time helps to unpack things all at once, knowing that we can still meet afterwards to get some support, more tools, and more direction.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, man, you are so needed, Mary. You're
Mhm.
so needed. I love that, how important that is in a marriage. And I love that we should be able to have these conversations.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? We should be able to have these conversations and not have shame around it and realize that, you know what, things can change like we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
And if you are, like we said, if you are in a situation that it is the opposite of what we're talking about, you can also still get help. You don't have to
Yes.
stay in that situation. You don't have to stay feeling, like the what you said how you felt before
Mhm.
when you were
Mhm.
married in your past. Because when you have the right person, oh man, Mary, how amazing is that? Like,
Night and day difference. Woo!
it matters, ladies. It really matters who we choose,
Mm.
to be our life partner and who we choose to marry. It really matters. It
Mhm.
absolutely matters. So, what are you and your husband looking forward to now? Because it just seems like you guys have such a great relationship, Mary.
Mhm.
What's in it? What are you guys looking forward to?
We are going to Greece for an
Oh,
anniversary trip, so we're super excited about that, and we have 2 new grandbabies that are less than a year
oh,
old, so it's a new stage for us, definitely empty nesters, except for now the nest looks like a crib, huh? We're
that
having fun. We're having a
That
ball.
oh, that's fantastic. So, Mary, though, this was so good. I cannot believe it went this fast. Like it went so fast. Usually, I mean, we were over an hour already. I mean, that's
Right.
fantastic. And I feel like I'm just getting started with you.
Yeah.
How would you like so for women that are listening to this right now, so
Mhm.
the majority of our audience are either obviously they're single women looking for
Okay.
love
Mhm.
and they haven't had the best luck in the past,
Yeah.
and women that are in marriages right now.
Mhm.
How would you want what was the last thing you want to say to them?
Oh my goodness. Well, definitely we've said don't give up.
Yes.
And you are worth the work that you will do on yourself, but you're also worth what you're asking for from somebody else. That
Oh, that's nice.
honor and respect, to have your heart cared for at a really deep place. And if you need changes, to believe it's okay for your spouse to adjust to you. You're not just stuck with the way things are. You can always lovingly say, I would feel more loved if this and this could be different. What do you think about that?
Oh, oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this conversation. I actually feel like I want to have you back. I feel like there's more layers here and it's such an
Yeah.
important subject.
Mhm.
And I want really people to understand, like, don't think that you can't talk about this. You have people like Mary, you have people like me that are here to help, that are
Mm.
here to, have these discussions with you because ultimately we want you to be able to be in a marriage that is growing, thriving,
Yes. Yes.
loving, fun, easy, like, right? Because marriages are truly a place where we should come to enhance our lives. We
Mhm.
should enhance our lives, not detract from it. There's no perfect anything, you guys, but when you have the right alignment, things are awesome. Things are awesome because life is
Yes.
hard. I always say life is hard, but our
Mm.
relationships is where we should come for that peace, for that comfort, for that
Mhm.
connection. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you,
so
Mary.
welcome. It's
No,
been
thank
a
you, Mary.
ball. And I
Thank you,
love what
Mary.
you do, because we've got to get women started on that right direction.
From the beginning, Mary, we got to pick the
Mhm.
right man from the beginning. Exactly. How you got your man that second time, and
Woo.
how you dated. I love how she already, I didn't know her back then, so this was on her, but I love how she really realized that dating was an opportunity to get to
Yes.
know someone and not to waste your time. Like, don't waste your time on men that are not in alignment with you. Like, just don't waste your time. Move on.
Absolutely.
If something's off, then it's off. Believe it,
Mhm.
move on. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Mary. And until next time, cheers to great love. That's a wrap. Wow. What a beautiful love story. How Mary followed her gut and realized that she no longer needed to stay in a marriage that she didn't feel safe and respected. And after she left that marriage and healed and went inwards and did the work and really was able to date and meet different men and have the time of her life, she eventually met and married the man of her dreams. And they have the coolest, happiest relationship that she can ever imagine. Wow. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode, because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.